What to do about bad referees? I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies. Today we're talking about how to handle bad refereeing, meaning you're playing a game, it's probably an organized game because this is a street ball channel, meaning basically, not traditional like and one street ball, just like being a serious every day, every week park playing basketball player. But if you are playing organized basketball, meaning there are referees involved in officiating the game, what happens? How do you handle referees that seem to be making bad calls that are going against you, making the game seem unfair? Now, while I haven't played much organized basketball, I am aware that bad refereeing, biased refereeing, unfair refs do happen from time to time. Fortunately, they usually don't happen in do or die situations, meaning like you're trying to make the playoffs, you're trying to get into a tournament, you're trying to survive a tournament. Usually there's not bad refs involved in like championship games or like if you lose, you go home. Usually that's not the case. So obviously it can happen, it has happened, it will happen, but for the most part, usually bad refereeing happens in, non-consequential games. And also, fortunately, it doesn't happen that often. Now, when it does happen to you, it really bothers you. And if it happens more than like once in a season or however often, then it does seem like it happens all the time. But in reality, it doesn't happen very often. But when it does, this video is about how to handle it and what you should do. Two major points to keep in mind when you and your teammates are experiencing unfair, biased referees. First is to focus on what you can control, because remember, you can't control those referees, right? You can't make them be fair and unbiased. And you also can't control what the other team is doing, what the other coach is coaching them to do. You have no control over any of that. And so don't try to control that. Don't stress out or be anxious about trying to control that stuff. Don't do that about anything that you can't control. Put your focus into the stuff that you can control. So for instance, right, if you're getting foul calls when you are on defense and anytime you reach in, even if you never make any contact and it should be clear as day that you're not making any illegal contact, but you're getting called for fouls anyway, right? What you can't control what the refs are calling. You can't control what the other team is doing in terms of how they're going to run their offense and then whether or not you reach in or not. But you can control if you actually do reach in. So if it's your game, if you're used to, right, reaching for the ball when you think you can get a clear steal, and it's just sort of, you've trained that into your nature to be that kind of a defender, in this game, not overall, not, your entire game in general, just for this specific game with this specific refereeing crew, right, you're gonna have to adapt. You're gonna have to change your game just for this refereeing crew. So you're gonna have to figure out how to play good, solid defense without making any contact. Even when you do see the opportunities to reach in and try to get a steal, and you're like, oh man, I could reach in right now and get that ball if I just reach in, right? Now you're gonna have to adapt and change your game for that particular game, because if you reach in, you're probably gonna get called for a foul even though you don't commit one. But if you reach in, even if you don't make contact, now you're giving the referees an opportunity to make a call even though you may not break any rules by doing so. So just don't give them that opportunity. Don't reach in. Just be disciplined, figure out how to make yourself a wall that your opponent can't get by and just defend them without reaching in. If you're getting called for stepping on the line every time you shoot a three, well, if you're not stepping on the line and it's clear that you're not, but you're kind of close, and the refs may be able to make the argument that maybe you did, right? In that case, take it out of their hands, take a step back away from the line from now on when you shoot those threes, so that there's clearly inches between your toe and the line. Don't make it a close call. Any close call that could go against you, do as much as you can to eliminate that. So on 3-point shots, if you're getting called for step on the line, make sure there's 3, 4, 6 inches between you and the line when you shoot next time. I'm not saying for you to change your game forever to playing like that, but for this game and that referee crew, you're gonna have to adapt. If you're getting called for fouls every time you go for a rebound, because like it's a 50-50 ball rebound up in the air, and even though you're not breaking any rules, you get called for a foul anyway, and it's clearly unfair that that's happening to you. Now you're going to have to try to prevent that, take it out of the referee's hands by getting better, more dominant rebounding, boxing out position before the rebound's even in the air. So now it's not a 50-50 rebound, it's more of like a 70-30 rebound in your favor. Do whatever you can to try to take the close calls away so that you can't be cheated by the referees when it comes to those close calls. Secondly, maybe the worst thing you can do when it comes to getting bad calls called on you play after play all game long, maybe the worst thing you could do is to give a clear and obvious negative reaction to those calls. Because the more you react to the calls, the worse it's going to get for everybody, not just you, but your whole team. Because again, you can't control the referees. You can't make them start calling a fair game. So if you glare at them, if you argue at them, if you throw the ball at them, if you bounce it hard at them with like an attitude, if you're aggressive in any way, even passive aggressive towards them, they're just gonna make things worse for you. You cannot bully them into calling a fair game for you just because you're mad, upset, frustrated, angry. The more you show them those negative emotions, the harder they're gonna make it on you. If the other team sees you getting frustrated like that, and they see you reacting more and more frustratingly, losing your cool, losing your composure, if I was your opponent and I saw you having that kind of reaction to that bad refereeing, like, I'm gonna understand what's going on. I'm gonna understand you're getting bad calls called against you, and you're getting frustrated at the referees and just overall. And if you're my opponent, I'm gonna exploit that to the best of my ability. I'm gonna do everything I can to get underneath your skin even more while we're playing. I'll grab you, I'll hold you, I will foul you when the referee's not looking. I will do everything I can to try to get under your skin, to get you more and more frustrated, to pull you further and further out of your game. So you don't want to show the referee that you're frustrated, and you definitely don't want to show your opponents that you're frustrated either, because both of them will use that against you. That's, of course, easier said than done. When you're that frustrated, I know for me personally, whenever I've felt like I've been being cheated in competition, that outrages me. I get enraged by feeling like I'm being cheated. But you gotta figure out how to discipline yourself and not actually show a reaction to it. Just like I said, put your head down, focus on the stuff that you can control, and play your game, your team's game, to the best of your abilities, and try to eliminate as many close calls as possible. Also, I believe in the idea of, complying in the moment, in the present, when you have authoritative figures who have, authority over you, like a referee. If they're being unfair to you, right? I've always believed in just comply, right? They have power over you, they have authority over you in the moment, even though it's completely unfair and you shouldn't have to. Just comply in the moment. After the game, you can then, approach whoever the employees, those referees, right? Because they work for somebody, they're employees of somebody, right? After the game, after you've kept your composure throughout the game, then you complain to whoever employs them. But in the moment, in the game, just comply and keep your head down and focus on the stuff that you can control. That's what to do about bad referees. It's all about you controlling you disciplining yourself, because you can't control when and where and how bad refereeing against you happens. Also keep in mind, the first time it happens to you that you come across bad referees and they're making bad, unfair calls against you and your team, that is the most difficult it's ever gonna be, because at some point it's gonna happen to you again. At some point down the road, you're gonna meet another bad referee or a bad refereeing crew, and you're just gonna feel like they're trying to cheat you. But the first time it happens is going to be the worst, because it's never happened to you before and you're learning on the fly how to deal with it. From there, the second, third time that it happens, you'll be able to deal better with it because you'll be more familiar. But the first time when it happens to you, do the best you can to be as disciplined as you can and just focus on you, focus on your game, and focus on the stuff that you can control, which should include, you know, taking as many of the calls as possible out of the referee's hands. The better you handle it the very first time it happens to you, like the more prepared mentally you are for the fact that eventually, if it's never happened to you yet, at some point it's going to. When it does, stay disciplined, don't react, focus on your game, and then after that, the second, third time that it happens, you'll be able to deal with it much better. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, if you found it helpful, if you think it's going to help you deal better with unfair, biased refereeing in the future, then please subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you hit that thanks button down below. When you do, any comment that you leave telling me how you deal with unfair, biased referees, all of those comments are going to be highlighted from everybody else's, meaning they're going to stand out. And also, when you hit that thanks button, it directly supports the channel. So for anyone who does, you know, I greatly appreciate it. As always, like, share, comment, like I said, hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever any video goes live on this channel. And until then, I will see you guys next week.
See the world cast pearls quick, trying to be famous, be the quiet in the room, people know when you're dangerous. Big in the student, never assuming. Hair in the room is keeping it moving. Trying to critique by saying you're losing. Wanna bring up the past, tell them business is booming. That dad won't define me, knowing where to find me. Wrapped in the wings of the mighty. So many ups wanna try me, seeing what I got.